Welcome to the Rivalry Rant Podcast. It's the Kentucky Wildcats versus the Louisville Cardinals and everything else in the world of sports. And now, your hosts, Josh Conder and David Smith. Let's get it on.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 1 of the Rivalry Rant Podcast. Josh Conder here, along with David Smith. David, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm tired. I have a newborn, and they always said that infants sleep a lot, but I think everybody's been lying to me because they don't. So I'm here, though. I'm ready to get the first podcast, the Rivalry Rant, going regardless.
So, to kind of break it down for everybody what this is all about, me and David have been friends going back to about our sophomore year of high school. And we're friends in high school, through college, ended up being roommates with each other for a little while until he met the love of his life and settled down and got married. And David, huge U of L fan, me, huge University of Kentucky fan. So you can only imagine the arguments that have went back and forth between us two. However, we always thought that those arguments were pretty legit arguments. We went back and forth and had some pretty good discussions. One night, we had a few beers, and we decided that we thought we would be really, really good podcast hosts. So that was about 4 years ago, and we kind of missed and talked about this for the last 4 years. Finally, David needs an excuse to get out of the house and get away from the baby, so he decides that we really want to push and get this rolling. So that's how we're here. Don't know if anybody will listen to it, but we're going to give it our best shot.
Well, first of all, about the getting out of the house thing, of course, my wife knows that that's a lie. Of course she does. So if anybody asks, that's simply not true. Connor was right about 95% of that. Yeah, we grew up together, and the interesting thing about the rivalry is that if you listen to a lot of talk show hosts, if you listen to a lot of radio stations, a lot of podcasts, I think the reason this podcast is interesting is because a lot of them they're very biased toward their teams, which is fine. It makes for good radio. But you rarely see a radio show or a podcast where you have two hated teams talking about sports. You know, one of the main things people talk about around here is U of L and UK athletics. So we thought it'd be cool to come together and try to come up with a few interesting topics to talk about with you all. So that's kind of where we're at with it.
And like I said, we hope somebody listens. Surely we got a few friends out there that'll take some time out of their day to give this a shot. But how our friend group's kind of set up is David's by far the most outspoken U of L fan. I am by far probably the most, what would be a good word to put it, Dave, as far as my UK fandom. Logical. Okay, that's probably the best way. I would say my whole day at work, I'm listening to sports shows, kind of going back and forth. David made a mistake of telling me his username on a message board one time, so I daily kind of creep that and make fun of him. So that's kind of where we're at. David has a few friends that are Louisville fans with us. We're a mainly UK-dominated friend group. Throughout this whole podcast setup, we hope to bring some of those guys in. Some nights it'll be David getting bullied on by UK fans. I'm all for David can bring whoever he wants on here to talk about U of L with me because I'm going to crush them anyway. And we're just going to go back and forth and talk about some subjects. We're hoping that more and more people will be involved. And like I said, even if it's just our friends sitting down, we hope this is kind of entertaining. Last night was a huge night for the Cats. Today is Thursday, May 25th. And last night at about 11:45, the Cats got Hamidou Diallo back, pulling his name out of the draft. And that was huge for the University of Kentucky's basketball program for next year. So we're kind of riding high off that. Not a whole lot in U of L news today. We're going to go kind of past the news topics for the first week and talk about last athletic season, so from last football season through mainly basketball, the highest and lowest moments for UK and U of L sports. So, Dave, what about U of L? What were the high points of last year?
the high points of last year, I got 3. And I'm going to go from 3 to 1. I hate when people start off lists from 1 to 3 or a top 10. You start off with number 1 because then it just takes the suspense away. So I'm going 3 to 1. Number 3 and number 2 are close for me. I would say that number 3 was U of L's victory over Kentucky in basketball. There was a couple reasons why it was big. Number 1, the narrative, unfortunately, was starting to be wrote that it was no longer a rivalry. Obviously, Coach Cal really has had Pitino's number since he's got to UK. Before that game, it was 1-8. Now, it's 2-8. We really needed that game to keep the rivalry going. Living in Bardstown, in a rural area, I'm definitely outnumbered by UK fans. Most of my friends are UK fans, and so at least us getting that victory gave me something. In the midst of a long 20 months to be a U of L basketball fan, let's just be honest, there's been a dark cloud over the program, and I think the only way to kind of soften that blow was to finally beat UK in basketball this year.
And that's a game on your home floor that you all should win.
Right. I definitely agree. It made it even better because you had a guy like Q who's a hometown kid, have such a big game. UK had the top 3 going to be number 1 round draft picks. And to win that game on our home floor, a hometown kid coming up big and just going through a lot of adversity the last 20 months, it just hasn't been that fun being a U of L basketball fan recently because everything that's been, going over the program with the scandals. So I think that was really the only way to give some joy to be a U of L basketball fan. It was huge for us. So
the question, do you all as U of L fans, your performance against UK, I feel like most of the time success is based off of that Kentucky series. Is that what do you feel the same way?
Yes and no. I really think both, and you might disagree with me. I'd say you probably will, but I think even if U of L wins a national title, okay, let's just say they won a national title, but then they lost to UK, I still don't think you can look at that season and say that was a complete season because you lost that rivalry game. Because you can always have a UK fan say, yeah, y'all won it all, but we beat y'all. We beat the national champion. I'd take it all day long. Don't get me wrong. I'd take it all day long. But I don't think you can say it's a complete season.
To me, that's ignorance. You've won 3 national titles in the history of your school. Kentucky's only won 8 in the history of their school. National titles don't happen all the time.
Don't get me wrong. I would take the national title over a UK victory all day long. But I'm saying for it to be a complete dream season. 2013 was a dream season. We beat UK and won a national championship. 1980 was a dream season. Beat UK and won a national championship. 1986, and I might be wrong, I got to look back, I don't think we beat UK that year. I think we lost UK that year. I might be wrong with that. I might have got the 80 and 86 mixed up. But if you were to ask me what I'd rather have, I would say I'd rather have a UK victory and a national title.
So you want your cake and eat it too.
Exactly. Who doesn't?
What about number 2?
Number 2 and number 3 were close, but the more I thought about it, the more number 2 is a lot more significant in my opinion. The Florida State victory. We joined the ACC 3 years ago. This is our 3rd year in the ACC. Before our season last year, I had called the Ramsey and Rutherford show, which unfortunately has perished since, my favorite radio show. But I called them and I said that Florida State victory was a must-win for us this year. Why did I say that? Not many fans thought we were going to go down to Clemson and Death Valley and beat them, although we were a James Quick give-up away from beating them. But not many fans thought that was going to happen. I think we thought beating Florida State at home was a possibility. I think U of L football has pretty much entrenched itself as the 3rd best team in the ACC. You have Clemson and Florida State up top. U of L football has really clinched themselves in that number 3 spot. If we don't beat Florida State this year, you're 0-6 against Clemson and Florida State in your first 3 years of the league. I think that game proved that we can at least compete with those 2 teams. But everything about that day was a dream for a U of L football fan. I didn't ever think that we'd have a Heisman Trophy player on the field, beating the number 2 team at the time in the nation by 40, having College Game Day there, having Lee Corso, put the bird hat on, the Muhammad Ali tribute. I've been going to U of L football games since I was 5, 6 years old. I haven't missed a home football game in the last 10 to 15 years. And that was by far the funnest game I've ever been to. It was a surreal moment. I remember looking at my brother many times during the game, just not being able to believe what was happening. And it wasn't just that we beat them. It was that we beat them by 40. It was that we had a Heisman Trophy winner out there. And it was that it was College Game Day. So for me, that was number 2 for sure. There's no question about it.
Well, and you're right about the atmosphere. Louisville, even though I'm not ready to say they're among their top marquee teams out there, they do it right when they make that game a party atmosphere. It is fun for people to be there. Now, sometimes you got people that aren't in their seats because they're up at the bar, but everybody's going to enjoy their cold beer, I guess.
Got to have that party back.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with you. U of L football is not at the status of being an elite football program. But I do think we have came very close to knocking on that door many a times. But if you don't beat those dominant teams, you're not going to be able to get there.
Oh, it definitely takes a win like the Florida State win to give you a chance to even – there's building blocks. You got to have something that kind of launches you to the next step. And that was, at the time, a very, very big step for you all. What about number 1?
Number 1, and it's not even remotely close, it was Lamar Jackson winning the Heisman. As an avid U of L football fan, I didn't think I'd ever see a Heisman Trophy winner at U of L. To be honest with you, I would have said that we would win a national title under Bobby Petrino in the future before we had a Heisman Trophy winner. And there's a lot of reasons to that. And I think some of those reasons me and you disagree on a little bit. We've had conversations in the past. But I think one of the biggest reasons, I think it's really hard to win the Heisman unless you play for an absolute elite football program. I don't think it happens that often. So that was one of the reasons I didn't think U of L would ever have a Heisman Trophy winner, certainly not soon, maybe in the late future. If we got to the point where we were like a Florida State or an Alabama or Clemson, we're not there yet. And so the fact that we're not there yet and we were still able to produce one, I think was unbelievable. And I know you disagree with this, but just for an example, and we've had many arguments over this, it seems like, I think a guy like Jabril Peppers, he was really fun to watch. He was a great player, no doubt. But I think if you put him on U of L or UK or a team like Missouri or a second-tier team that's not in that top-tier team, I don't even think he's in the talks for Heisman. I don't think he's at New York. And so I think that's why it's so hard for a player at a second-tier team to win the Heisman. What Lamar did this year, stats-wise, was absolutely phenomenal. I haven't seen a player like that at U of L in my whole life. There's been a lot of great players, but that athleticism and some of the plays he made this year was phenomenal. It was just a great day on December 10th watching him win that Heisman Trophy award. It was definitely a surreal moment as a football fan, and it's really that and the Florida State victory is the only thing worth remembering from this football season. So that made it big, too.
Here's my only rebuttal against Lamar and the Heisman. I wish it was at the very end of the year. Because Deshaun Watson, what he did to put Clemson in the position to win that national title is hands down to me one of the most unbelievable things I've watched. I mean, that kid just would not quit. And he's a hell of a ball player. We know that he went to Cleveland, right?
No, he went to the Texans.
Oh, that's right. He's a Texan.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. He's a Texan. So he's still going to suck, probably. But to me, I think it had to come down to those two, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think you could have made an argument for Deshaun Watson to win it, but not really. You definitely could have if they waited till the end of the year. You're absolutely right what he did. I don't like Clemson, and I don't like Deshaun Watson. When we first joined the ACC, I was like, I really like Clemson, I like their fans. And then when you barely lose to them 3 times by like a yard each time, and their coach is just annoying. But anyway.
I love some Dabo, man.
Oh, he's annoying. things. I think he's still complaining about that Heisman loss, even though they won the national title. But I digress. But they don't give it then. They don't, and they never have. If they gave it at the end of the season, things may have went a different way, but that's not how it works.
Lamar's start of the season and through the middle of the season is what won him that Heisman.
It was, but the problem with also giving it at the end of the season is kind of like this situation. If you're going to play for a dominant team with better players like Clemson was, you're going to have a better opportunity to win a championship, and you're going to have a better opportunity to look better individually. When the Heisman is just for the regular season, that's why they give it at the end of the season. I get what you're saying, but that's why they give it then.
I still think there was a lot closer debate towards the end of the year than most people. I mean, week 10 of the college football season, he had it locked up, if you asked a lot of people.
I think it was the fifth highest margin of victory. He won in a landslide.
I mean, he had it locked up then. But to me, and it's so hard not to make it just an individual award. And I think this year was one of the first years that it was truly an individual award.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. As crazy as this sounds, I think the Houston game almost made it easier for Lamar to win the Heisman after that collapse, because the world really was able to see how incompetent our offensive line was. The fact that Lamar did what he did behind that offensive line makes what he did even more amazing.
I mean, it was there for the taking.
It was.
Baker Mayfield has a big closing weekend, or Watson closes out the regular season like he played in the playoff. I think he definitely got something else there.
Did you, as a UK fan, ever think you'd see a U of L player win a Heisman, or vice versa? A UK fan in the near future.
I had Couch. So that's probably the closest thing Kentucky will ever come. And then, Woodson had his little campaign that kind of, until we started losing to everybody, things we shouldn't lose. But it's so hard, man, because the thing is, you can just get athletes from everywhere now.
Right.
I mean, and there's so many out there now, it's hard for all these recruiting services and people who judge these guys out of high school to really say what they are.
That's true, because Lamar was only a 3-star. He was a high-rated 3-star, but only a 3-star.
And he was the dual threat, which was kind of not typical Bobby Petrino. And he came out there, and I mean, and he's a great kid. He puts in his work, and that's what it takes at the college level. I don't care if you are the 5-star out of high school, and just, hey, everybody wants me. When you get on campus, you got to be the first one there, last one to leave. And that's what it definitely takes to play quarterback.
Right. It does. And he definitely put the work in, and it's really going to be really excited to see what he does this year. I just hope Mike Summers can get that offensive line repaired a little bit and go from there. The other cool thing about it is, why this is the case, I don't know. But for some reason, the Heisman Trophy Award is the most prestigious award, individual award in sports. It's the only award where it has its own show, from my understanding. And, like Boston College, I don't know anything about Boston College. I don't know anything about their past, but I know that Doug Flutie went there, and I know he won a Heisman. And it's something that a lot of people remember, even if, the school isn't one of those top-tier programs. That was another example of a school, somebody won the Heisman that just wasn't like it.
Well, it helps you the recruiting benefit of it. I mean, a smart coach is selling that to anybody. Especially when he was closing out this last year class, because, I mean, Lamar's probably got one more year there. I mean,
right.
He's telling these freshmen that are your wide receivers and these athletes, hey, come play with this guy.
Yeah, and I think you've seen that with a lot of recruiting at the skill positions, wide receiver.
Well, we're not going to get into recruiting because
that's another podcast for another time.
Yeah, that's why we hate recruiting. 3, U of L over UK. Basketball, Florida State game number 2, and the Heisman number 1.
Do you agree with that order?
Yeah, probably. I would probably flip 3 too. I think that win in basketball was a little bit bigger.
It was close. It was close.
I mean, you needed it. It was a game you should have won. Where if you'd have dropped the Florida State game, probably wouldn't have been the end of the world. But you played them before Clemson, correct?
Played them before Clemson.
They were the 3rd game of the year.
Yeah, I believe
it was just
3rd or 4th.
140 degrees that day. That's all I remember.
3rd or 4th.
I don't really have a 1, 2, or 3.
That's all right.
For UK.
We can break the rules before rivalries all about.
The Kentucky football season this year
is
and I mean, it's hard to say that when we had an Elite 8 in basketball, 16-2, I believe, in the SEC in basketball, SEC tournament win or chance. It's hard not to talk about basketball, and now that, like I said, we got Hamadou last night locked back up, I'm focused all towards football again. And as UK, I'm probably in the rare majority, or not majority, but the rare side of this where I'm probably a bigger football fan than I am basketball.
I would agree with that.
I follow the football, ooh, that sounds country, but follow the football way more than, I follow them both probably about equal, but I get way more into football because there's nothing better in my eyes than SEC football. And Saturdays and those college towns, tailgating in the parking lot, you just can't beat it, in my opinion. And last year, going into the season, I looked at it as, well, let's hope it works out. Because I think that's how you kind of got it at Kentucky football now. Because for so many years, I was like, this is the year. And this is the year, meaning I was shooting for 6-6. Just give me a bowl game. This year is definitely the biggest roller coaster ride I've been on. Because opening week, Southern Miss game, we come out, Drew Barker looks like he's going to win the Heisman because he's hitting everything. And the second half, the Pee Wee football team from Bardstown trots out into the field, and we just get drove. You got that, and then you go to Florida week 2, and you lose by 40, if not more. It might have been 48. But it was embarrassing. That was one of the games I did turn off in the fourth quarter. Come back week 3, Drew Barker starts, back injury, first quarter of the game. I think he played 2 series. And then you throw in the man of UK lore who sits upon the wall of the newspaper up there, Stephen Johnson. And I will be the first one to admit, as soon as he came in, the only words were, we're screwed. But, the kid stepped up, led us to 7-5 for the year. Well, we'll talk about the biggest win here in a minute.
Stings still.
But 25th. You finally saw, he comes in, and I'll be the first to admit, he can't hit the easy pass. We have a huge tight end that Stephen Johnson still can't even come close to hitting across the middle, and it drives me nuts. But we found out that he was the deep ball guy, and then we had 2 amazing running backs that came in, Boone Williams, Benny Snell, and you have to tip your hat to the Kentucky offensive line more than anything. They're the only reason that season happened. Because behind those big guys, we were able to find a system that works for us. Eddie Grant, our offensive coordinator, puts us in a great position. Kentucky football had an identity. Won a couple games late. Dropped a game to Georgia that we probably should have won. Should be kind of probably talking about an 8-4 regular season. We had that game. That was the game we should have won.
Yeah, I remember that game.
I wish I remembered it all. Too many beers in the parking lot that day.
That tends to happen when you tailgate.
But
do you still sneak bourbon into Commonwealth?
Oh, yeah. We're not that good to watch us sober. I don't know if we'll ever be that good. Nothing like a mixer drinking Commonwealth.
Mixed drinking Commonwealth. What if you could have the beer option? Would you still sneak in bourbon?
Nah, you gotta have the beer or bourbon still.
Gotta have the bourbon still.
Yeah. Especially, there's a difference. If we're talking early September when it's hotter than hell out, I want my beer.
Okay.
But, when it's cold and you get the night game, which you all never play night games.
We don't. And I'm starting to love that. Another subject for another podcast.
No way. You got to have the night game, or at least the 4:30.
I tell you what, those breakfast tailgates on the noon games, they're not bad. I guess you just got to embrace what you got.
Now, to the part that I'm just going to rub it in like hell, is even though the number 1 on your list was the Heisman, Lamar probably did more for UK football than any player in the history of the game when he fumbled that ball against us.
That seems excessive.
There's been a lot that's happened afterwards, though. That win there has catapulted UK football into just this hot streak of recruiting. We had already locked up the bowl game, but it got us to an even better bowl that we won't talk about because that was a really bad performance.
ACC football.
Yeah, right. But
another subject for another podcast.
Yeah. I mean, as a UofL fan, and let me paint the scene here. That game was a Saturday morning or noon game, noon kickoff, I think.
It was.
Okay.
Yeah.
The weekend after Thanksgiving. So Friday morning, I wake up and I feel terrible. Laying around my apartment that day, betting a few games. I hit like a $300 parlay. And I was like, well, I'll see what the line is on the UK UofL game the next day. So I wake up and we were getting like 28.5.
I think it was 26.5. It might have gone up 28.5.
I think it was at least 27.5. And
which was outrageous.
Yeah, for a rivalry game.
Especially with the way we were playing at the end of the year.
And then the last 2 years, look how close that game had been too.
Right.
So I look at it. I obviously take Kentucky with the points, and I'm like, hell, plus 1,500 on the money line. Let's go with the 100 to win on. Kick back and watch the game. Now, I'm dying at this point. Literally feel like I'm on my deathbed. And I'm sitting here watching this game. And it's kind of back and forth. First, or you all scored right off the bat, didn't you?
Lamar had about a 20-yard run, 50-yard bomb pass. No, it was a 50-yard bomb pass, 20-yard run, touchdown. I looked at Sean and said, this is going to get ugly. I thought we were mad over the Houston game.
And then the first play, Steven Johnson comes out. He comes out, and you can see him mouth, I love this shit, before he snaps the ball on the opening play of the game. There's videos all over the internet where you see him mouth.
I tried not to relive it.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. And bombs, touchdown pass, where the hell did that come from? And we're off. We got a ball game. You were there and had begged me to get tickets all week. Thank God you didn't. Thank God I didn't. Or your dad probably
wouldn't
even
Indy
talk to
2014 replay of except football, not basketball.
Now, how much did it suck the life out of the stadium down there?
It sucked the life out of the stadium. But one quick thing I want to point out. You can't put that loss on Lamar.
You got to hold on to the ball there.
He had 4 turnovers, but he also had 5 touchdowns and 400 yards passing. If it wasn't for Lamar, I think UK probably beats by a couple touchdowns. You all were really trending upward at that time. Your offensive line was playing really well, and we were starting to spiral down. Having said that, I felt more confident about that game as far as the UK UofL football game. Felt more confident about that game since Teddy Bridgewater's senior year. I mean, I didn't think there was a chance. I was proven wrong, obviously.
And, I mean, you could script it up a better way for a UK fan because we sit there and I'm watching and I'm thinking, well, we blew this one again. And then Lamar just comes down the field, tries to make something happen. I mean, you kick a field goal when it's over.
It's not, though, because if you think about it.
He could have ran the clock now.
No, there was only 2 minutes left. There was 2 minutes left, but with the way you all were driving down the field, I think if you get a field goal there, y'all come down and score a touchdown. You all were scoring at will, so were we, especially toward the end of the game. I don't think it's over there. I mean, obviously we're in a lot better position, but I remember even thinking at the game, if we score here, it's not over. Because even after we fumbled, y'all still had to go 60 yards down the field, and you did it in no time. I mean, it was effortless.
Well, but at the same time, as a coach in my mind, I'm thinking, put 3 in my back pocket, and they got to score a touchdown to beat me.
Yeah, in a perfect world.
Yeah.
It's not how it turned out. I think, in general, obviously that was a huge
Okay, here, one question here. Did Bobby's ego get in the way there?
No, I don't think his ego got in the way because I think, especially the fumble, it was 3rd down. It was just a simple read option run. You just hold on to the ball and you kick a field goal. I mean, that's probably 2nd down. I don't know what do you mean by ego?
Well, I mean, do you think he was going for the 6? Think he was going for a touchdown there?
I mean, I think you get it if you take it, but I mean, obviously, if 4th down came, we're kicking a field goal.
Was he down?
No, it was close.
Real close.
But I don't think it was. They initially called it a fumble,
Yeah.
I think if they initially called it down,
I was dying, and I was standing up yelling at the TV waiting for
Yeah, I don't think they're going to reverse it.
Yeah, it was way too close. There's no way they could.
I think even if you take the U of L game out of Kentucky's season, I think y'all were sitting at 2-4 or something like that. And I remember texting you saying how many games this year, and you actually said I think we're going to win 4. And I thought you all looked so bad at the beginning of the year.
Florida game.
I thought y'all looked so bad at the beginning of the year. I said I'm not trying to be can't use bad language on podcast.
I can put up with it. Usually do.
I wasn't trying to be mean, but I didn't see it. And so I was really impressed and shocked how UK's football team came around, because I just didn't see it. It helped that the conference was down, but, your all's offensive line play really helped you all there toward the end of the year make that bowl game. Because if you don't make a bowl game, you're at, 0-4 with Stoops, no bowl games? Was it 0-5, 0-4? So that narrative is starting to be wrote that it might be time for a change. Instead, you turn the season around miraculously, and you get that 7th victory to go.
I don't think, I think if at 3 wins, you would have had a conversation of getting rid of him after last year. 4 wins, he was safe, because obviously he couldn't help that Barker went down.
I don't know if Barker going down, I think that would probably had a better impact than him not.
It's pretty interesting, because the game plan was changed. We became just a straight run up.
Yeah, I think if anything, Barker going down and Johnson coming in. And look, Johnson had a really good game against U of L. He's a good quarterback, but let's not mistake him for being a stud. But I think he's better than Barker. I don't think that would have hurt your chances. Barker hasn't shown me anything. He had a good half against Southern Miss.
No. Well,
I'm taking Steven Johnson all day next year if I'm a UK football fan. Are you not?
How many games? Oh, it's Johnson's team.
Yeah.
Hands down, Johnson's team. You can't give it to anybody else besides him.
I only had to watch that one game to know who the starters should be next year.
Well, we lost the debt, though, the deep ball threat. So somebody's got to come in and take that road. And then you got Boone.
That was an odd transfer to me.
Now, he already got his bachelor's. Can you blame him for trying to go? He went to Oklahoma.
Yeah, I guess playing with Baker
Mayfield.
I didn't know you were Oklahoma. Baker Mayfield.
He's at Oklahoma, and you got to think Kentucky started off with Neil Brown when Stoops got here, and we talked this air raid. So through Brown's first year there, that's what we were recruiting, were these air raid type receivers, and now you got Benny, the main man Snell, in the backfield now. So you got to hand the ball off and run the ball.
Yeah, I think
and truth be known, I always thought Kentucky had to have the gimmick offense like the air raid, but we are now too deep on the offensive line, and that's something that in my lifetime you couldn't say about UK football.
I wish we had that problem.
That Houston game was bad.
It was bad.
Really, really bad. And then I'll hit on UK basketball for a second. Great season. You're going to throw another 3 probably in the first round of the draft. Damn Carolina. That was a heartbreaker.
May, right?
Sean
May.
Yeah, hit the dagger. But
may the force be with you.
The nerd. But and Kentucky basketball is never going to hang its head on Elite Eights by no means. But the tournament, as I get older, is more and more random. And obviously, I think we got beat by the best team. I think Carolina was the best team. I think we were probably the second best team at the Elite Eight point.
Agreed.
Because the whooping we threw on UCLA was something, and the bracket just kind of how it sets up sometimes. But I think we were the second team at the end of the season, and you're going to lose some games like that. We were lucky to even be around. Officiating was definitely questionable, but you can't blame it on everything.
Now, those are your biggest moments. Would you say that the North Carolina loss was the most disappointing of the UK athletics?
I had us losing to Carolina in that game. Southern Miss is hands down the low point of the UK sports season. That's how it started off for us.
Well, I don't necessarily mean low point. When I say because what the podcast we were going to do highlights and then low points. And when I say between disappointing and low point, the North Carolina loss wasn't a low point. I think it's so disappointing for UK fans, though, because that North Carolina-Kentucky game, I said, whoever wins this game is going to win it all. You know, I really felt that way, and I think a lot of people felt that way. I think if UK wins that game, they have title number 9.
Yeah, I think so, too. But at the same time, I had us losing that game going into it. I thought Carolina, we snuck one away from them in Vegas, and it took Malik Monk going for 47. And it took Malik Monk getting really, really hot into that game to even have
North Carolina was a great team. I think for disappointing, I mean the way the game was lost on the last second shot.
I mean,
because I think if
you're asking me if a dagger at the buzzer to end Kentucky basketball season wasn't heartbreaking, yeah, it was heartbreaking.
That's what I mean by most disappointing. And I'll get to what I'm talking about with U of L here in a second. But I think what's his first name? I just
Sean May.
You sure?
Pretty sure.
North Carolina used to have a Sean May.
Oh, you're right.
He was
Luke May.
Luke May. So two different Mays.
Two Mays.
Yeah, and I think what made that, I don't know how it couldn't be the most disappointing part of the UK season, and there's a lot of reasons why. It was the way that the game was lost. It was kind of similar to the way the Wisconsin game was lost. No. I think in both, not necessarily the way it was lost, but I think in both scenarios, if you win that game, you're winning the title. And I think that's why it was so disappointing, because fair or not fair, and I'll go ahead and say it, it's not fair. You're starting to have rumblings out there, well, Cal's had all these players and he's only won one title. I think if you win that game, you probably go on to win another title, and then all of a sudden there's no more talk of that.
The only reason that it's going to take a second title for people.
Right. And that's why I say it's the most disappointing. Yeah. Fair or not fair, I think that's why.
It's going to take a second title for Cal to cement his legacy. And I think that's what bothers UK fans is we've had the 38-1 year. That's our title, okay? And then we had, this past year, that was our title that we probably should have won. I'm going to go back even further. John Wall's first year, we were the best team. But that leads to the point that the tournament's so damn random.
Oh, absolutely.
And like we were talking about national titles earlier, Louisville's won 3, Kentucky's won 8. In how many years? It's so random to win those things, so they don't come along.
It's so hard to win. Like Dang Adele's coming back, and he said the one thing he want to do, he said, I want to come and win a national title. Tino said it's hard to win a national title.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's beyond hard.
Definitely.
And again, I'm not saying it's fair, but I think that's why it's the most disappointing.
Yeah, I mean that's. Kentucky fans look at that and definitely he should have another title out of it. And Duke winning 2 of the ones that we should have had. Really,
yeah, and that's another reason why. Because if you beat North Carolina and you win the title, I think you can call yourselves presently kings of college basketball, winning 2 titles in 5 years. Now I don't think you can unanimously say that because you have Duke and North Carolina's won 3, and I think 10, 12 years. So I think if you go on to win another one, it would have, there have been a lot of bragging rights there.
Oh, yeah.
Been a lot of bragging rights
there. But at the same time, I think it's that people put so much emphasis on championships that, and as a Kentucky fan, we don't celebrate the Elite Eights and stuff like that, but we're not getting beat by Lehigh and Mercer. That's that's the difference there, and that's what bothers me when everybody questions Cal's coaching. Low point for Louisville.
Low point for Louisville. It's hard. The UK loss was brutal because you felt really confident as a U of L fan you're going to win that game. Even after the Houston game, you had this idea that it was a fluke and we were going to get it together and we were going to go out and win that game. We didn't. And it really put a damper on the season. The season was great in the fact that you had a Heisman Trophy winner and the fact that you had a big win against Florida State, but the way the season ended was really bad. There's really no other way to put it. So losing to UK at home was not ideal by any means. It was probably as a U of L fan, the top 3 worst loss that I've live. One being the loss to UK in the Sweet 16 2014.
Great
and
time.
Another time for another podcast. The Central Florida football.
Hold on 1 second. David ate a chicken ring that had fallen on the floor at White Castle that night.
No, I didn't. I was going to.
That's right. Your mom yelling at you.
That's another time for another story for another time. But the Central Florida loss in football, and then the ranking number 3 was probably this loss. It was awful. But to go further than that, I think losing to Clemson the way we did, you could almost argue is more disappointing, and here's why. A lot of people would say, how is losing to Clemson on the road, the national championship team, more disappointing than losing to UK, you're favored by 28 at home? And I think the reason why is because if we win that game, we might be having a completely different conversation right now. You know, the way we lost, if James Quick just picks up that first down and we go to score there and win the game, all of a sudden, we might not have lost another game that year. Because whatever you want to believe, after we lost that game and you had the distraction every single week as Louisville in, you know, the college football playoff selection, we're number 5, we're number 6. And every time we're not in that top 4, you see the Louisville Twitter, you know, the players getting mad and upset. That really affected them. That really affected their motivation to play. And I think that if we go and beat Clemson, I don't know if we lose another game. I think we're playing with a lot more confidence.
So
because
you're saying that they were upset, obviously, but then you throw in the games like Virginia. To me, get off Twitter, quit your bitching, go play football.
Oh, no, I agree, but I think that affects them. I agree. The U of L players, I don't think, handled it well. It was very evident that they were very upset they weren't in that top 4. And I think if we had went out and beat Clemson, because all those close calls happened after the Clemson game, when all that distraction was there. The way we beat Syracuse, the way we beat Florida State, the way we beat all those teams, you almost beat the national champion at home. And then after that, it's a constant discussion that Louisville's not in, their schedule isn't good enough. Washington's going to outbeat them. And I think that really got to their head. If we win that game, I think the whole season changes. I think all of a sudden you have just beat Florida State and Clemson, and the only real challenge at the time you thought was Houston at home. You know, obviously you dropped to Houston, and the rest is history. After we dropped Houston, we had no chance to win. And I really think after that, you know, and it's not right, I don't agree with it, I definitely think the motivational level dropped off some, because the difference of how we played before the Houston game compared to after was night and day. So those are the two most disappointing. You know, obviously the UK loss is a lot worse as far as what's a bad loss, kind of like the Southern Miss loss is a lot worse than losing North Carolina. It's the same type of situation, both disappointing in both ways.
Just complete opposite of when it happened. One at the beginning of the season, one to end your season.
Right.
So, I mean, going forward, we got the summer where we're hopefully to keep this, me and you being able to do this every other week or so, we get some news and some stuff to talk about. Obviously, we can talk about the past all day long. What do you look forward out of the summer? Are you gearing up for football now? Or are you kind of waiting back on the Katina Powell ordeal to see what happens there? What's the next month or two going forward? What's your look for U of L?
Month or two going forward. Our next podcast is going to be on the Committee of Infractions ruling. After the Committee of Infractions decides what other penalties, additional penalties U of L is going to get. I think, speaking for all U of L fans, we are ready for that saga to be over. Give us our medicine, let's move on. So I'm ready for that to be over and move on from that. But after that, I can't wait for the football season. I can't wait to watch what Lamar does this season as the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. It's going to be really interesting to see if that offensive line improves. It's going to be really interesting to see how he handles the hype. And he's a Heisman Trophy winner now who's coming back. So he's going to have a target on his back every single week. So I'm excited for that opening week against the Purdue game. I already got my tickets, Lucas Oil Field. I am pumped for football. 100 days till football.
That's a Lucas Oil?
Lucas Oil, yeah.
Really?
Hotel booked. Me and Dad are going. We're rolling with it. 100 days. What about you?
Well, hell, I wouldn't have minded him like the Indianapolis. I know a couple of beer guns up there. Mucky Duck.
We're 4 months away. You got plenty of time.
So, I guess for me, you just kind of follow and wait for the football grind. I mean, that's all there is. Luckily don't have any kind of scandal going on.
Yeah, it hadn't been fun.
We got Hamadou back, and now I guess Cal and this under 19 USA team that he's coaching, probably going to watch that a little bit. He's probably going to throw 3 or 4 of the Cats on there, along with some other players throughout the U.S. So I'll probably follow that a little bit. Kind of a little bit of unfair advantage. He gets to work with this point guard a little early, but Coach K did it for years. So just
good luck to the baseball team. Looking forward to watching.
We got both of us got a baseball team.
Both in there.
So
rolling.
Kentucky's playing tonight. If they can wrap that one up, they'll probably be a super regional host. I don't know where y'all rank.
We are in the ACC tournament right now. Actually, U of L's hosting the ACC tournament.
Yeah, I knew that.
I know we're going to be a top seed.
You have a top seed locked up already.
I don't know if it's locked up.
No.
We got to get past the ACC tournament.
I know y'all host a regional. Super regional would be the one that Kentucky's trying to get through. And you guys were set up for baseball. Kentucky fans didn't know this was coming at all. We were projected like 12th in the SEC this year.
Right, yeah.
And new coaching staff comes in. Anyway, Dave, I've had a blast. Hopefully we'll get this up and get rolling. Maybe set up a Twitter account in the future, try to get some questions rolling in. Like I said, we're going to try to get together hopefully one more time before this Louisville ruling comes out and just kind of let you guys see what we're working with. But Dave, appreciate you coming in.
No problem. Looking forward to it.
And until next time, guys, we'll shout at you later on.